Hello folks, hope that you're having just a great day today and staying safe. Today I want to take another look at this book, the short story collection that I've been exploring for you. This is Guy de Maupassant. It looks at some of his horror and weird stories that he wrote, that he's very passionate about. He wrote a lot of these sort of horror stories. I've talked to you a little bit about some of that in the previous story that we looked at called He. This is the next story that I found in this collection that I want to give for you. I've read a few stories here and there in the collection that I have felt weren't always the kind that I want to put on here. Either they have some issues for a modern reader, or they're just a normal kind of story. They're not some of the better ones. But On the River is really good. It's definitely high quality. It's one of my favorite ones I've read in this collection. So I want to feature it for you now. It's my favorite one I've read in this collection so far, but I've only read like maybe 10 stories in the collection. So, and I've already done one review for you with He. So take a look at this one. It's On the River. It actually resembles The Willows by Algernon Blackwood in some ways. It's set on the river. The main character has this, who's this fisherman, is telling this story of when he was traveling the Seine River and giving this story and this unusual and bizarre experience he has late one night when his ship is anchored in the Seine River. And there's all this beautifully descriptive, but also kind of awesome. And much like Blackwood, the writing of Guy de Maupassant in this story marries that sort of view of awesome with that sort of view of horror. And he does a very good job of that, especially considering the fact that this is being translated from French into English. But it still stands the test of time. It still has that deep, dark descriptions and so forth, and of what's going on. And you want to find out what's happening, what's going on. And this fisherman has this spiritual connection with the river that's not normal. And he talks about how the fishermen have different relationships with bodies of water than mere people that visit them and then go home. It's much deeper, it's much darker, it's much more spiritual. And so he talks about that and that relationship for about a page in this collection. Now this story was about 7 pages long, but it had a full page image on it, so whether that counts or not, I'm not sure. Have you read On the River? Again, I think it's really good. I've given you a quick synopsis of what's happening. I'm not going to give you the whole thing because it's kind of short, and I don't want to give you any spoilers, but I've tried to give you enough to hear voices. But there's a lot of that sort of synergy with Willows. Willows is a short story by Algernon Blackwood, which I consider to be the best horror short story of all time. And I'm not the only one out there who does that. I share that with other famous people, or like H.P. Lovecraft. I think it's a great short story, about 40 pages long, set in one of the famous rivers in Eastern Europe. And it's it has these descriptions of the river, this danger, this evocative aspect to the river that is a powerful, palpable part of the story. And the same is true here. Guy de Maupassant has the same thing. I think he's evoking that same imagery, that same style, that same thing with On the River. So I like it a lot. Have you read On the River? I'll leave you to it. Have you read it? What did you think of it? Do you agree or disagree with anything? I'll link you to it below. I'll link you to this collection, and I'll try to find it for you for free online too. A lot of his stuff is for free online, so I'll try to link it to you so that we don't have to pay any money for it. But I'll link you to this collection too if you want to take a dark dive into his sort of horror stuff. And then, hey, if you like this video, please feel encouraged to hit that subscribe button. There's going to be so many more of these classics of fantasy, science fiction, horror to follow, from stuff that was more recently in the 80s all the way back to the 1880s. I try to unpack for you a lot of things that you may not have either heard about, or famous writers that you may never ever gotten a chance to read, and that sort of thing for you. So if you enjoy this, you're going to get a lot more to follow. And finally, I just want to thank you for taking some time out of the day and watching my video. We all have so many things happening in our lives and so much competition for our time. So the fact that you're spending this time with me, that's very humbling, and I appreciate that. So thanks again, and have a good one.